Welcome to Strategic Analytics for Leaders. In this video, we will analyze data using several strategies. We'll use this analysis to help us make decisions that will enhance organizational performance.
Welcome to Module 4. In this module video, we'll be examining different tools and strategies that will help us analyze data and evaluate alternatives. So a couple of features that we'll be spending a good amount of time on will be particularly on the Data tab in this What If Analysis feature. We'll be examining the Scenario Manager, the Goal Seek feature, and the Data Table. So first things first, let me just give you an overview of each of these. Goal Seek, if I open up this worksheet, Goal Seek is going to help us calculate a value using a target that you want to achieve in another cell. So for example, let's say that we want our average grade for Tina Fey. Tina Fey really wants to do well in this class, and she's aiming for a C. She wants to get a C for the final grade for the class. So she wants to figure out what score must she get on her final exam in order to earn that value of C, or 76. Okay? So if we examine this, we'll come up to what if analysis. This is a goal seek. Our goal is to earn a C. So we'll set cell B11, our average grade. Let's say she wants a 76. Okay? And we want to see how that final score, she can earn that final score by changing cell. In this case, it's going to be B9 because that's her final test score. Okay? So we'll click OK. So she wants to get a final score of 76. She's going to need to get at least an 81.5 on her final exam. Kind of cool. What happens if maybe 76 isn't good enough? Maybe Tina Fey changes her mind and says, let me see if I can get at least a B minus. That's an 80. Let's see what that happens there. So if we change cell B11 to an 80 by changing cell B9, yikes. So it looks like it might not be possible for her to get a B minus in the class, because that would mean she'd have to get over a 100% on her final exam. And if I know that instructor, there's no extra credit on the final exam. So this Goal Seek feature allows us to manipulate and make projections and figure out what we need to happen on a final score here in order to affect and earn that end goal of an 80% or a 76% in our example. Okay? So the next feature that we'll take a look at is some of the scenario managers. Okay? So using our what if analysis, we can make changes to different scenarios. So I set some up before. I'm going to delete them out. So let's add some new scenarios. So we're looking at ABC Marketing Company in their IT department, and I guess they're trying to examine their current budget versus a new budget. So if they're projecting an increase in the budget, we can see how that affects the new budget. If there's going to be different best case, worst case scenarios here, right? So let's see. Let's examine if, we'll call this best case. And actually, I'm going to try that one more time. I'm going to add best case, and I'm going to change these cells. It's going to be based on all of those cells. Okay? So best case scenario is they get a $20,000 increase in wages. They get a $5,000 increase in supplies. They get a $10,000 increase in training and a $5,000 administrative increase. Okay? let's also say that there's going to be a worst case scenario, right? And it's going to be based on changing these cells again. And in this case, our wages are going to go down $10,000. Our supplies are going to go down $5,000. Our training is going to be cut from last year by $5,000, and our administrative increase is going to be cut by $2,000. And 0 budget increase. So this one is essentially going to be the same. We're going to keep it the same as our projected here, okay? So let's see the worst case scenario. We'll click on that name up in our scenario manager and we'll click show. Yikes. So our new budget really gets slashed. Let's see our best case scenario. Show. Okay, so we're able to examine that bottom line number and what the new budget will look like based on these different cases. I'll show our 0 budget increase, and that was our original value, okay? So again, just one other feature that we can use to examine the different scenarios and what-if cases, okay? The last piece here that we can take a look at is setting up some data tables. So a data table, I'm going to flip over to our box company. Data table is a range of cells that contains a series of input values. Excel calculates a formula substituting each value, input value, into your data table range and places the result in the cell adjacent to that value. So you can create a 1 variable or 2 variable data table. A 1 variable data table calculates a formula by modifying one input value in the formula. A 2 variable data table calculates a formula substituting 2 input values. Using data tables provides a means to analyze various outcomes in a calculation that occur as a result of changing a dependent value without creating multiple formulas. Okay, so again, working on that data table or data tab, we're going to be featuring our what-if analysis and our data table piece here. So let's say that we're looking at 7 different production levels, right? So that would be a 1 variable data table. So the data table, like I said earlier, requires that the formula for calculating the various outcomes be placed in the cell in the first row above and 1 column to the right of the values. Okay, so in this case, why don't I put that the data table values, we've already entered some in cells E6 down to cell E12. So therefore, we're going to make cell F5 the active one. That's 1 column over to the right and 1 row above. So the formula that calculates the cost per unit is going to be equals B8 divided by B10. So that formula has already been entered in cell B12 over here. See? Equals B8 divided by B10. We see that up in our formula bar here. So we're going to link to that source formula by coming into cell F5, and we're going to type equals B12, or we could simply just click on it and then press enter. So then if we select our data table here, E5 down to F12, we can then, on our data tab, come to what-if analysis and come down to data table. Okay, so at this data table dialog box, we're going to be in the column input cell, we're going to type B10, because that's our standard production, that's the input value there. Excel needs to know which reference in the source formula is the address for which the variable data is going to be inserted. The production volume in cell B10, or standard production, it's that cell for the source formula, okay? So, we'll click OK. And, oops, I need to make a couple more changes here. If we had these, and came here, B10. There we go. Okay, so we're able to then see the data table calculates cost at each production volume. So let's see what this looks like. Cost per unit, can we make sense of this? Cost per unit, if we're producing 500,000 units, is $3.21 per unit. If we're producing 425,000, it's more expensive. It's costing $3.78 per unit. If we're producing a lot more, 575,000, it's costing a lot less per unit. So that makes sense. Okay, that's our one variable data table. Okay, we'll go into further detail as we examine other exercises within this module, but that was just one example of how we can set up some of the what-if analysis to analyze some of our options here.
I'm glad you were able to watch. Excel allows us to analyze data and evaluate alternatives. As you saw, we can use this analysis to support organizational leaders in making operational and strategic decisions.